Welcome to Fridays with Anne. This is a series of conversations with Belgian homeopath Anne Vervaeke about homeopathy. I will ask her curiously whatever confuses me in homeopathy, like case taking, case analysis, or theory in general, and Anne will answer according to her insights, experience, and most recent findings. You, the viewer, are invited to participate actively, so please feel free to send in comments and questions. And now today's episode of Fridays with Anne. Hello, this is the third session of Fridays with Anne. Here we are again with Anne Vervaeke. Hello, Anne.
Hello, Joost.
Good to have you again. We will connect right to the previous session where we talked about the idea of dimensions. This is another step of case analysis, and which is based on the vital information that we get through the case taking. So I was wondering, based on the vital information that needs that we need to be sure, therefore, that the information that we base our analysis on is vital.
Exactly.
How can we do that?
How can we do that? It's a very logical question. As we started out talking about animal cases, it's like already known for sure that we have vital information. So from there, from kingdom, how to determine subkingdoms and species in an animal kingdom, we went to yes, but there is an even earlier differentiation you can make according to the dimensions, but still this is also based on vital information and also context. The context of the conversation of your anamnesis will help you out a little bit. But the main question is, before you can analyze into kingdoms and also miasms mostly, you have to be sure the information is vital. And the difficulty usually is in differentiating between vital and story, the story that the patient tells you, and his personality. So his personality will show in the anamnesis. He will express his way of being by his personality, and he will express or tell you, share his life story or his stories with difficulties and complaints with you. But what is vital and what belongs to the story and is not a basis for prescription, what belongs to the personality and is not a basis for prescription, that's the thing, the difficulty.
So you're differentiating basically all the material, the information we get in a consultation. You can put into three categories. Then that would be the story, the personality, and vital information. Is that right?
Yes, there's more. There's of course the physical information, and there's the information from the second level, which is the energy level. So we get information from all levels, but the difficulty is usually not on the physical or on the energy level, which is the body part of this of the whole patient. In the mind part, we have emotions, we have the psyche, and we have this strange thing beyond that we try to find words for. And on this beyond thing, this vital level, there is the source of the disturbance.
Yeah.
And we already discussed how difficult it is to make the patient verbalize this.
Right. So we're just now talking about this specific area. We're leaving out the other levels, so to say. We're talking when we think we have something strange, rare, peculiar, and we think this is vital. How can we know that it is vital and not the story, that a story of the patient, or that it does not belong to the personality of the patient? That would be the question, right?
Indeed, that's the question. And especially because before, let's say, sensation was discovered or described, we used to analyze according to drug pictures, and the drug pictures were a mixture of all kind of information from all kind of levels, and we have these portraits. We were which were very useful when we studied homeopathy in the 80s, because we saw, instead of a bunch of rubrics, we saw a person, a personality. So we are trained to see personalities, and then later we have to let go of them, because a personality is one possible and maybe likely expression of a certain state, and the state comes from the vital. That's the way the person perceives himself and the world, and it's unaware. He's unaware of it. It's unconscious. It's just his way of doing and being. You never really question yourself, because that's the way you are, and most people don't even realize there are other ways to be. They might consider other ways to think, or other ideas, but not other ways of being. But
especially for very central things, they believe everybody just feels or thinks the way they do.
Yes, like human. And of course, we all share human traits, that's clear. And we all have a personality also, but we don't prescribe on it. And that's a difficulty. In the many masterclasses that I gave, and I always think the best situation to explain is when you have a life case in front of you, and the students, the homeopaths, could be there and witness how the patient behaved, what the patient told, in what way the information came to you. All this theory I'm trying to share as a help, and then in our analysis, like this, discern this is personality and this is not. That's the difficulty. And what I can say about personality is the sum of all the aspects of the social and the cultural background of the patient. That means the country you're born in that particular country, let's say the social environment, the status of the family you're born in, or the neighborhood you are born in. It's also your IQ. It makes a difference for your personality, whether you have a very high or a rather low IQ, but it doesn't make a difference for the state. You don't have intelligent states now.
Yes.
So that's.
But what is state? Because state is a thing that you haven't mentioned before. Then we need to define first what you mean by state.
I would say the state is the vital. That's the way you are in, and the world you live in.
Right.
Your individual world you live in. So the IQ doesn't belong to that, because you can have the same state. Let's say you need an ozone. You can have an intelligent ozone and a not so intelligent ozone, and both of them are still in an ozone state. So that belongs to the personality, because in the personality it will make a lot of difference.
Yeah.
And so in your family constellation also, the place you have in the family, whether you're a girl or a boy, whether you're the firstborn or the sixth in a family, that will make a difference. Even with the same parents, it will make a difference. And also the family history. Let's say the people are immigrants, or the people, your grandparents were in the war or something. You are also part of this family history that will somehow be reflected on you. Of course, gender plays a role. It makes a difference whether you're girl or boy, and also your biography, the things that you lived through. That means the character, the personality of your parents will also put this stamp on you. The way you are educated. That makes a difference. That's your personal biography, but that will also form your personality. So the best way I can put it is if you have in your garden, you have a carrot seed, and so you sow your carrot seeds in your garden, and you nurture it very well. The soil is very fertile, and you give it lots of water, and it's in the sun, and the temperature is ideal. You will have nice, big, beautiful, tasty carrot. And on the contrary, when your carrot is, you know, in a poor soil, somewhere in a dark corner of your garden, and you never look at it, you neglect it, and you will have like little crooked, maybe worms in your carrots, and they will not be so tasty, but it will be a carrot. So the carrot is the vital, and you could say
the carrot is the vital. The carrot is our substance that we are looking for. Yes.
Yes, they will never grow a cauliflower out of your carrot seed, no matter how you raise it. But whether it's raised in good circumstances, ideal circumstances, or in very bad circumstances, will determine the results. So they will look different and taste different, and express different, but that's the personality.
So that's the personality. Could we say that the personality is then all the things that we could explain psychologically, maybe?
Psychologically, and from understanding the story and the family story, and of course
it goes beyond psychology, but yeah, okay.
Yeah,
understanding the circumstances.
The circumstances, the context of the patient, the situation he is in, the things he went through, then you will understand. It starts in the very first minute when you ask. Of course, you see the patient, so you don't have to ask the gender, but when you ask, are you married? Are you divorced? What is your profession? It starts already there. Because then, plop, you have an idea. Oh, I have a businessman in front of me. Oh, I have a saleswoman in front of me. And then the person will add to that picture. So this is my situation. That is where I grew up. And the way that he or she will express, you will notice whether the patient is intelligent or well educated or more unfortunate and had to work at a very early age, and etc. etc. So that will all like build up this personality from which you can understand a lot of psychology.
Okay. Okay, so that is the personality. What is then the story in contrast?
Well, then this person will tell you the stories. And the stories is a part of this biography. This is what I went through in childhood, this that happened, or you know, I'm divorced and this and that happened. It mainly, let's say, to generalize it, it's the theater where the patient experiences the issues. And the issues is why he comes. That's the main reason why he visits you. So unless the patient only sees us for physical reasons, he will be aware that we are holistic healers, and we want to know the whole person. We want to know who is sitting in front of us with the problem, not only like narrowing our vision down to the problem only. So the patient will tell about himself. That's the story.
So the story. Okay, no, let's go first then. How do we know then it's vital, or what? There must be fine nuances, because otherwise it would be easy, right?
Otherwise it would be easy. Now, the story is sometimes confusing for homeopaths, and they tend to prescribe on the story. and also that's because there's information out there. The platform, the theater on which the patient experiences issues, that's a story. And very often that's about work, that's about family, and that's about relationships, because these are the issues, or these are the arenas we all have in our life. And very often that is where, almost always, that's where the problem is concentrated. But we shouldn't prescribe on this simple fact. We shouldn't prescribe on the arena. Actually, to know what is vital, we have to like strip the whole story and see what remains. And also strip the personality and see what remains. And then we have the vital information. And I know this is easily said than done. But everything that in the story is like human, it's common. We all share it. We all have family. Okay. But of course, our relationships in the family are very different, and our experience of these happenings are individual. That's vital. And the best inner guidance is your surprise.
Okay.
Yeah, where you ask yourself, huh? That's a funny way to react.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something unexpected, okay?
Yeah, every time you understand the story, you think, yes, of course, I can see that. It's logical, it's appropriate, it's a proportion. Even if it's a bit extreme, still, if you can understand it, it's normal, it's common. Yeah. It's not the basis for prescription. It only becomes the basis for prescription when you think, what? When you're surprised.
Would you say that this happens in every case?
I think for a long time, because I think maybe there are exceptions, but I can't think of any. So my first answer would be, yeah, I expect this surprise to come in every case. But yes, but it's subtle. And when people talk a lot, for instance, plant cases or animal cases, and you have, especially plant cases, you have pages and pages and pages that you scribble down, trying to follow all the stories.
Yeah.
Then it can escape your attention. This little, because it's not big surprises, it's like little surprises, and sometimes you're only surprised because you heard something for the third time.
Yeah.
That you think, now this comes up again and again. That's a little bit strange, because now we have 3 or 4 or 5 stories and the same thing keeps coming up. Okay, that's a very good pointer. Then you can almost forget about the story and only take this what is left, your little surprise of, this seems to be unusual. Then I can say it belongs to the patient and not to the story. So everything that belongs to the story, you can disregard as a basis for prescription. Everything that belongs to the personality, you can disregard.
Right, yeah, I understand the theory. Well, one thing would be, because I could give while you were explaining it a bit more, I was thinking of an example for when last time we spoke also about compensated animals and how we change over our childhood and so on, and how compensation gets stronger and children are less compensated. And I was thinking of a child, for example, comparing themselves to others. That would be for us normally a typical pointer to animal kingdom. But in children, not so much, because you said that in school comparison and so on is normal, and everybody gets graded and everybody wants to know what grade did you get and what clothes do you wear and how good are you at sports and all this. So there it is not reliable if it's just mentioned there, it's not something to jump at. But it could also be that it is actually an animal case in a child, and there it would be quite, it would go into subtleties, no?
Always. The homeopathy is a very sophisticated healing system, and it's always subtle. But the example you gave is very good. So you said, in a child or a puber, it would be normal to compare yourself to your peers, because then it's a period that's very important to have a lot of friends, to be popular, because you don't have your identity firmly established yet. So you're a little bit in doubt, and especially between childhood and adolescence. You mean you are in this stage between these two chairs that you don't even know who you are, you know.
Yeah.
Which is all normal. We all go through this period of time. It's normal development. So you have to then more or less define for yourself what is normal in this particular child or pupil with this culture and social backgrounds, and even with this race, because there can be difficulties or differences in expectations.
Yeah.
Like a boy should behave like this and a girl should behave like that. That can be a difference in different communities even. So all these things you have to take into consideration, like for this child in this school, in this area, in the countryside or in a big town, in this particular social environment, what is normal? What is common? What can you expect? And all that goes out the window. That is not the basis of prescription, only what is left.
Yeah.
And if he's comparing, and all the children are comparing, that's normal. But he can be exaggerating. He can even, in the thing that is normal, be on the extreme. And then it becomes how do you say? It becomes a symptom.
Yeah. I see. This directly leads to the other question that I had in mind. In order to understand now, to separate all this personality from the vital, or the other way around, we need to see the unusual. And to see the unusual, we need to know what is usual. So it sounds like we need to have a very vast knowledge of all the usualities, if that is the word, of sociology, psychology, regional habits or customs, cultural things, like you say, gender roles and all these things, and the gender roles in their context and so on. And then for every particular person, apply individually what are these background information things, and we put these personality puzzle together, and then we can see what is left. And that could be vital then, yes?
Yeah, you put it very well. Yeah, you know, we talked before, and I usually call this common sense.
I know.
And then you reply,
I wonder with which people you hang out, but okay.
Yeah, I know. So for me, it seems that way, that you have to use your common sense, and because it's impossible to know everything. We cannot be, although we try, be specialists in everything. Yeah? But homeopaths have very big demands on themselves, and of course you're right. The more you know of these areas, it will be helpful. But you cannot be specialist in everything. So what you have to, let's say, as a minimum requirement, have to at least know about or master is, and we think this normal for the physical level, it's like we study anatomy, physiology, pathology. So you have to have a basic knowledge of how the body functions, right? We think that's normal. What is normal functioning and what is pathological functioning? Where is out of the normal? And we have to have some idea of pathology. Like if you have diabetes, then you can expect this, that, and the other symptom. Or when you have this, that, and the other symptom, it might point to this particular disease. This applies to the mind as well. For the body, we think it's normal. We have to have some medical background, at least able to know what is strange and peculiar. If it's the same, I will tell about the mind in a minute. But if you have if you want to prescribe on the vital information, it's on all levels. I keep shouting, you know, the vital is all levels, all of the time. There's no way your patient can hide the vital information from you because it's in his individuality. So also on level 1, level 2, which is the body, we will have the vital information in the physical symptoms. But to discern vital from common, we have to know what is common. Yeah. So let's say migraine. A person comes with migraine. We should have an idea in order to be able to prescribe what can you expect with migraine. And if a patient says, I'm photophobic and I feel nauseous and it hurts a lot and mostly it's one-sided, etc. We know that's all. That's migraine, right? Yeah. Yeah. But when a person says, for instance, I recall a patient who said, oh, my headache is so bad. Oh, it's so bad. The only thing I can do is like, oh, I want to sit down or stand and lean my head against something. And I said, what? How do you exactly do this? So I made him stand up and show it in public for all the students. Like he would like slowly move to the wall and then very softly put his head against the wall, and that would be the only thing that would improve him. And if this chair was like high enough, he would just lean back with his head, and that was the only thing that would improve. Now that doesn't belong to migraine. That
not good migraine, no.
How often do you hear a person with migraine describing precisely what he needs to do in order to be able to stand it? And that is not surprisingly a rubric, and the rubric is not surprisingly his remedy, because it's so clearly, by the way, it's bromium, it's so clearly expressed in his very particular symptom that you can trust it. And the same thing applies to the mind.
I understand the theory there. The same applies to the mind, and this is also what Shankaran tells in his little course book that he recently published or a while ago. Again, the search for this peculiar physical symptom also, and keep inquiring, keep questioning the patient until you get this funny symptom. And to me, it feels easier to find these peculiar, out of the ordinary symptoms, vital symptoms on the physical level than on the mental emotional level, because to separate the personality and the story, like you said, these are not so hard facts. These are not so clearly defined. What are social standards, or what are, because these also vary from person to person.
Yes, and we we have to make interpretations, and so we can have different ideas about it. But unfortunately, the hard facts that we would like to rely on the physical level are very rare. I mean, most of our patients have vague symptoms, chronic suffering, a lot of suffering on level 2. I gave you an example that had, and that is why I recall it so well, that had this particular outspoken symptom with only 6 remedies, you know.
Right, yes.
But most of the time when a patient comes with, you know, on the energy level, level 2, functional problems, pain is a functional problem, or hormonal imbalances, or energy problems, you know, burnout, chronic fatigue, whatnot, digestive problems, you rarely get those very specific symptoms. You get most of the time this syndromes,
irritable bowel or irritable bladder, or I don't know what.
Yes, and then you have all these vague complaints, and in every rubric that you will look, you will find 550 remedies. So unfortunate, when you have them, they're reliable and they point to a remedy, and mostly a vital one. But unfortunately, it's kind of rare. Most of our patients will express themselves more individually on the mind level than on the body level. It is possible, but it's strange, or let's say it's more rare. Although not longer than last week, a person came in, and you know, the remedy I had ready for her was Pereira brava, which is one of the Menispermiaceae, which is very close to the Ranunculaceae. So let's say if you have ranuncle in mind, then you're very close. And one of the first things the patient said, I have this, that, and the other. You know, I always somatize my problems. Oh, that's a good one. That means on level 2, generalities, she gives vital information. I always somatize my problem, which is almost a direct pointer to Ranunculaceae. That's what they do. They somatize emotional problems. Okay?
All right, yeah.
But then on the mind level, our patients express more individual, and we have to individualize as much as possible. And it's in general more difficult to be very individual on the physical level. But I heard a homeopath once said in a seminar, if you can recognize a remedy only from seeing the big toe, it's great. Yeah? But it's kind of hard.
Yeah, it's kind of hard. All right, okay. I have more questions for future conversations. Also, going into this whole vital sensation, vital disturbance question, what is really sensation and disturbance? How would you define these? And there are more. But for today, this is it. And I thank you very much, as usual. Very insightful.
Always my pleasure.
And I look forward to the next time.
Me too. See you.
See you then, Anna. Bye.
Bye.